Probates are unique in that you have a steady stream of leads month after month, year after year.
People think, oh my God, the person just died. You expect me to call them? I'm not going to be that rude or that insensitive.
Most places now, you can simply buy a list and they're pretty cheap to buy.
$1,500, $1,600, I'm getting a $150,000, $160,000 margin. Everybody wonders, what's the best place to find off-market deals? Well, number one and only, it is probate. So we have the Queen of Probates, Miss Sharon Vornholt, all the way from Louisville. So Miss Sharon, welcome to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here, Andrew.
So I guess we'll start with why probates?
Why probates? Probates are unique in that you have a steady stream of leads month after month, year after year, which is not the case with most other types of off-market deals. The other thing is they are totally unaffected by market conditions.
That's, so true, because a lot of times, people are going to pass away, right? So, and guess what? Properties that are they owned or were parts of the estate are going to get sold. And it's but still a lot of times, especially for new investors, for people, it's one of the easiest niches to get started with. Yet people don't go to those. So let me ask you this, because sometimes when you talk about probates, people think, oh my God, the person just died. You expect me to call them? I'm not going to be that rude or that insensitive. So what's the difference between a death notice versus probate investing? Because these are two completely different things.
They're two completely different things. So the death notice will be published, and you should never work from death notices. Now, people will open the probate when they're ready, and it might be a couple of months, it might be 6, 8 months, or maybe even a year. But when they open the estate, which is a legal process, they're raising their hand to say, I'm ready to sell the property in the estate.
So let's kind of just explain this. So I'll just put a timeline to it. Somebody passes away on January 5th, right? The death notice obviously will come out right away as a part of the legal requirement, whatever, that sort of thing. That's a death notice. Then you have a funeral, blah, blah. That's the first thing people get in their mind. Oh my God, you expect me to call people at that time or mail to them at that time? That's not what probate is. 6 months, 8 months after the person passes away, guess what happens? If they own any sort of estate, it may be jewelry, it may be furniture, it may be a rental house they live in. So they maybe have 401k, they may all the possessions. Obviously, real estate is a good part of it, right? About 50% of people, 55% of people will have real estate as a part of their estate.
Yes.
And the legal requirement for that is that they have to file for a probate through the court. So that's when they're saying, okay, now the loved one has passed away, and we are ready to take care of the legal processes to be able to settle the estate.
Yes.
That's when a probate gets filed with the court, and you can get those lists.
Yes.
Right? So this is like the mourning period generally is over. It's not that somebody's mom passed away, right? When is the mourning period over? Never. But they realize, well, it's a fact of life now. They're ready to basically go on and move the house, sort of thing. Correct?
That's correct. And each one is on their own timeline. It could be, like you said, a few months. It may be a little bit longer. But when they open the estate, that is a clear sign that they're ready to move forward. So you don't have to feel bad about it. And just to go back a little bit, if you think you're getting a jump on the process by working with death notices, you can't actually buy the property then. So there's no getting there first. You have to wait for probate, which is a legal process. But I did want to talk about the mindset of the investor. So they often say, this is creepy, or I'm taking advantage of someone at this terrible time in their life, when, as you said, these people have to take care of the business of settling the estate. So this is something they have to do. They have to complete this legal process. And if they have a distressed property, they are so happy when we can come in and take that off their hands, and they can move on with their life.
And I say this even with my personal experience, right? I mean, here, obviously, in Chicago or Florida in US, we own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses, right? And this is what we do. But I and my sister and I had my parents' properties in India, and we went through this exact thing, right? They pass away within a month of each other. It is what it is. And because it's out of the country, it's a huge headache to maintain a huge house over there. We didn't need the money. So it wasn't like, oh my God, it's a distressed sale from that end. But the distress came from the headache. Right, distress came from people who were living at that property. Even the people who were basically taking care of the property, the caretakers, they would have their own fights. They would have messes. We would get calls. That a lot of times people think distress is a financial distress, distress, emotional distress. No, this distress was that, oh my God, I don't want this headache. I'm not like I'm going back over there, so I want to get rid of the property. And what happens a lot of times, see if Ms. Sharon, you can relate to it, right? This was a rather bigger property, and so we knew most buyers we didn't want to deal with. We wanted to deal with a certain type of buyer, and a lot of times, like one or two people that got through to us, meaning that, hey, we have a legitimate buyer, the person is qualified, blah, 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 and then we were willing to listen, and we were receptive, and we actually ended up selling the property, probably 70 cents on the dollar, right? And we were not desperate to sell, but the exchange rate, all the issues that come with taxation, all of the other logistics, that nightmare is what people, and even here, you live in Chicago and you have a property out in the suburbs. I mean, we literally had a extremely, extremely successful attorney. 3 siblings involved. He's the person who's nominated to handle the estate, and it's his siblings. And he has a property in one of the nice suburbs. You would think a family that is well-off family, and he's like, man, listen, I know the offer, Andrew, you've made is kind of, we can do better on the MLS.
Yes.
But, he's like, man, I don't want the money. I want nothing to do with it. I just want my siblings to get whatever they need, and I want to be done with it.
I want to go on with my life.
I want to go on with my life. It's been a good house for us. It was our personal home, and we just want to see that somebody is going to make it nice, and it's going to be a home for another family. That's a lot of times. You'd be shocked how many times that happens on these probate deals.
It's amazing because you will have what I call true distressed properties where we've talked about this before. The roof will be great, the windows will be great, the major systems will be great, and they'll have orange shade carpet in it. It's kind of funny, orange shade carpet. Everything, cosmetically, it's a disaster. But you also have another type of property, which is just what you described, and I call them time and circumstances challenges. Maybe like you were out of the country. Sometimes it's a matter of they're across the country.
Sure.
They know they could do better.
Sure.
They know that, but they just want to be done.
And a lot of times what you notice, I mean, we laugh about this all the time, and I mean, this is a physiological thing. As you get older, you get colder, right? And as people get older, right, people who were meticulous with everything, took pride in what it is, right? They will, as people start getting older, they start keeping all the stuff they got. Yeah. Right? The Walmart bill that's 8 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, they'll save it, right? It's just one of those things, probably going to happen to all of us at some point, right? And you start seeing houses that they have taken care of the home. The home is not abused, but the bathrooms may be really old. The windows have never been opened because for the last, 8, 10, 12 years, they were just older. They were, right? And as you get older, it becomes difficult to take care of the small things. And they'll replace the furnace with the best furnace possible, right? And they'll put the beautiful, the best roof, right? They're 90 years old. I mean, I've literally seen this. And they have a lifetime warranty on the roof. Well, guess what? There's no lifetime warranty on your lifetime. But I mean, it's just, you got to understand, guys, the psychology. And the reason is, think about your grandmother's house. Right? That is set in her ways. She doesn't want, you buy her something new, guess what she continues to do? She uses what she uses because that is what she's comfortable with. And with a lot of these, and those are some of the most profitable deals. And so whenever I think about probates, I think about somebody's grandmother's house, right? Well taken care of, the carpets are clean, but they may be 70s green and pink and orange literally when they were put in.
I have seen linoleum where the people, they could have afforded to replace the old sheet linoleum, but it is literally threadbare. They're just not doing it. They're happy with that.
Yeah.
And to your point, we see some that are hoarders, but there are more that I call them keepers.
Yeah.
They keep receipts, Tupperware containers, scraps of tinfoil, reuse baggies, and it's everywhere. It's just literally everywhere.
Right. And a lot of times it's just a matter of getting to them, right? And so what's the process like? What happens? So somebody files for probate. Now, where do I get that list? What do I do next?
Yeah, you have to wait till they get the legally choose the executor or the administrator, and then next, that's when the assets are sold. You can get a list generally online in most places in the U.S. now. There are over 3,300 counties in the U.S., and if you cannot get the list, there are still some areas like New Jersey, some states where it's not available online, then you might get them from the newspaper or from another legal publication. But there are ways to get the list. But most places now, you can simply buy a list, and they're pretty cheap to buy.
Yeah, about somewhere around $100 or so.
Well, yes, and I have a source that I use. It's 30 cents a lead, skip traced.
Right.
They're really good. So so depending on how many leads you want, it's not expensive to get started. And if you think you can do it cheaper, think again. You can't go to the courthouse and do all of that stuff and get it cheaper. So
and it's going to depend on the size of the market, right?
The size of the market, yes.
If we look at, let's say, the Chicago market, and it's obviously a huge market, 9 million people or so draw in Chicago market, right? And you're going to have about 800 to 850 leads come up every single month. Out of those, about 450 or so are going to have real estate attached to it. Right? So it literally says that there's real estate attached to it. So it becomes rather simple. You take the rest of them out, right? And only deal with the ones that have real estate attached to it, right? It's really that simple.
It's that simple. And for comparison, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and so Louisville and the surrounding immediate counties, we have about 1 million population, and it's about 100.
Right.
100 a month, but not everyone will have real estate. And like Andrew said, we take out the ones that are really too low. We don't want, and the ones that are too expensive. Whether you're going to hold them or rehab them or what, it doesn't matter. Buy and hold. Some of them are just too expensive for buy and holds. They won't cash flow. So you're going to have the median, what I call the median bread and butter homes, and those are the ones you're going to focus on.
Got it. So as far as marketing, medium of contact, because you could literally skip trace the list. Now, here's the good part about probates. The person who's handling it, the administrator, you get their number, you get their address, you get the address of the property, obviously of the deceased, right, where the probate is being filed for. You also get how many heirs. There are 4 heirs, 5 heirs, 9 heirs, because that's a part of the paperwork that is filled out. Sometimes the person who is basically handling the estate, their phone number.
Right.
They put it. If they put that detail.
Or their email.
Their email, right? If they put that detail in the court records, guess what? That is public information, and it's available to you. So you can literally reach them right on their cell phone. So what is your preferred method of contact? What do you suggest people do?
Well, I've been doing probate since 2008 when I discovered them, and hands down, it's by direct mail.
Direct mail.
Direct mail, and a specific type of direct mail. These people do not like to be reminded they've lost someone by postcard. So I recommend you send them a computerized, personalized mail merge letter that says, "Dear Andrew, I'm contacting you about this property," so that they don't feel like they're getting a mass mailing. They feel like you genuinely care. And in the letter sequence that I send, it's very low key. It's very much, "I'll be here when you're ready." And it works very well. Now, some people call, and generally everybody I know, they have terrible results. People don't want to be called, but someone close to them passed away. They don't want that method of communication.
Got it. So you feel strongly that it should be a letter. Do you encourage people texting somebody? Because this is still, at the end of the day, I think a letter in the mail is a lot less intrusive rather than somebody suddenly basically texting, "Hey, your dad passed away. You know,
what about
on
your
text,
house?
yeah, well, I'll buy your house,"
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I still remember this, like my sister, right? I mean, and again, it's culturally different in India than
Right.
here, right? Over there, literally, they'll call you the next day, right? People who have no clue and give reference of your parents as if, "Oh, yeah, I knew them, blah, 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 blah." And this is just it's culturally different, but I still remember her being all irate, bent out, and she was not irate at them.
Upset.
Right? She was basically just all upset and all frustrated about the situation. I mean,
The
you know,
situation.
obviously it's an emotional time.
Yeah.
You're right, and that's what. And you have to understand that, guys. Listen, being sensitive, being same thing. A little bit of kindness that you would want, that same level of respect at that sort of a time and place is all you have to extend to other people. Right? This is not something that anything extraordinary you have to do.
No.
Just be mindful that it's somebody's loved one.
I've had so many people say to me, "I never felt pressured, and that's why I chose you." So there's value in that. And you mentioned about how do I feel about texting and all of that. Well, I've kind of changed the way I think about this because back when you could do ringless voicemail a few years ago, a marketing person that I know who's also a real estate investor did a test. He sent a letter, and then in about a week, he was using ringless voicemail to reach out. And he had a 400% increase in responses.
Sure.
So, since you can't do that in most areas, my way of thinking has changed a little bit. Not email as your first line of defense. I still think it's too early to call them in the early months. But what if you sent your letter and then you said, "Hey, it's Andrew. Just checking in to see if you got my letter last week and if how I can help you."
Yeah.
It really low key again.
So, we did something like that in terms of basically reaching out to them after we sent a couple of letters,
Right.
And then just exact same thing. Hey, it's kind of important. I want to make sure you got the letter that we sent,
Right.
and that's it.
That's
right?
it.
Because guess what it does? There's no way for them to be offended, but it creates curiosity,
Well,
right? And it's that itch that they can't scratch until they reach out to
Till
you.
they talk to you.
Right?
And there are statistics, and I don't remember exactly what they were, but the percentages of them reaching back out to you after a text as opposed to a phone call was a huge difference.
Right.
They don't feel like you've invaded their privacy.
Sure.
And they're much more likely to text you back. It's a non-committal. They've got
Correct.
nothing to lose. If they don't like you, then they don't have to answer. So
Right.
they're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So, having said that, we talked about getting the list, right? And the second part of it was mailing is a preferred method, right? You can follow that up with a text or with a call, obviously. You can do both.
Right.
How often should people do the mailing? And do I just send a mail today to, say, 100 probate leads, and then do I stop? What should that frequency be?
Mail everybody every month. Now, I like to. I'll back up. I prefer to mail everyone, and then 30 days later mail everyone. But if you don't have the capability to take those calls, then if it's too many and maybe it's just you, then break your mailing in half. But stay on target. That's the biggest predictor of success. Is your direct mail campaign is the last piece of this. And consistency with your campaign. And then follow up. I used to think, and I was guilty of this early on when somebody said no to my offer. I thought it meant no. And now I look at it, it means not now. So you'll get 80% of your deals statistically from continuous follow-up.
Okay. So basically you're saying you have to be able to do follow-up, and statistically, what was the statistic you gave?
80%.
80%
of your
will
deals.
be second, third contacts. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and you'll get, for the Sales and Marketing Council has statistics on the return on every month. But yeah, think about this, you're adding people every month. So today and for the next 4 months, you've got your 5th mailing going out, and 81% of your deals will come at or beyond your 5th mailing. But if you add these people every month, you build a pipeline, and in 4 months you're in that 5th mailing, and you've always got somebody next time in the 5th mailing. So that's where you start to get momentum on your direct mail marketing.
Got it. So is there a way, because a lot of times, right, people may not have a huge budget, they're just getting started. And how do I decide that? Because sometimes we've seen this more often than not, where people will basically go spend, they have $2,000-3,000 and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to mail everybody, right? So how do you suggest that people come up? Like if I take a place like Chicago or even Louisville, right? It's a big town, right? Should they mail everybody and anybody, or how should they divide that list?
You should get your list tight. So pick your area, and then we did it really old school. We flipped through, pulled up every house on the tax assessor site. We'd go yes, yes, no, yes, yes, no. So the beauty is in starting with a tight list. You want that, and then let's say you have $2,000 and that's all you have for to spend on marketing. You're better off picking 400 people and mailing to them for the next 5 months, and mailing to them the same people consistently every month. Then when you get a deal, it's called marketing money. It's not go buy a car or whatever. You put that money away for marketing, and then you're set, and then you can increase your spend on your direct mail. But I know from you didn't start out doing thousands. I don't recommend that.
No.
Pick your area, tighten up your list, make sure they're properties that you actually want. You know, why mail to somebody if it's in a really bad area or too expensive?
And also, sometimes what happens is, I feel very strongly about this, is not all mailing companies are the same.
No, definitely.
Right? So I'll give you an example. We were doing probate mailings, and I just had too many properties we were dealing with, and I stopped for a little bit. And then I put the people in place to do, so I have a different person now. And when you're just starting out, obviously it's going to be you, right? But as your business grows, you may have different people for different things. So I have one person now that handles all our rest of the mailings. And I have a completely different person that is handling part of his job, is handling the probate mailings, and I brought in the probate mailings. So the way I did it was, I basically downloaded for the last 6 months what were all the probates in the Chicago market. I took out all of city of Chicago. Now, city of Chicago, it's a huge city, obviously, right? So, but you have city and the suburbs.
Right.
We want to buy more properties in suburbs. Now, I'll buy around the Midway Airport. There's a lot of great parts of the city, but it's more difficult to break all of those out. So I didn't want to deal with that, because we literally were dealing with about 9,000 people. So I took all of the Chicago out, and I took only the suburbs, and I only took the suburbs where I'm buying suburbs that are not super, super expensive, properties that are no more than 2,500 square feet generally, so, from 800 square feet to 2,500 square feet, single families ideally. Now, will I buy a 2-unit, 4-unit, 8-unit at a good price? Yes. But you need to stop somewhere, because there are just too many leads. Right? And then on top of that, we basically narrowed that list down to where do we want to do a mailing.
Exactly.
And still that list is close to 3,000 people. Right? And now this month I'm doing a mailing to 3,000. I used one particular service for that. And I literally, I said on the first mailing, I had a $1,200 spend. On a $1,200 spend, I got one call, right? And I wasn't quite happy with it. So then next month, I was like, no, we're going to tweak it. This time, I massaged the list more. We went for a little bit longer length of time, and we did a second mailing that we spent about $1,900, and so far we have gotten 12 calls, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and this is a little bit of it, is you have to kind of keep a track of your numbers. So the other thing I would do is I would have a separate, like either a call rail number or a separate, even a Google Voice number that goes directly to you.
Yeah.
So that you can track, because people may call you nowadays, especially everybody's busy, blah, blah, and you may not even see that the call came in, or you may have a missed call, and then you may have a hard time. So if you basically have a different assigned number to it, you're going to be able to track, oh, okay, I got 30 incoming calls,
Right.
and I spent $1,800 to do it. So is there a mailing service you recommend that you've had good success with your students, with other people you deal
Yes,
with?
I love open letter marketing. And the reason I love that company is because it's owned and operated by a real estate investor. He tweaks the mail pieces as the market changes, and he uses them in his own business. So if he's not getting a good return, then he fixes it for himself, which fixes it for everybody else. But you went back to the point that I like to make is your list is everything. So if you can, let's say you can come up with and I do recommend, let me back up, when you're just getting started, if you can afford to, go back 3 to 6 months. Because these are people that are still, if the probates are open and the house is still there, the property's still there, they're a good lead because they're further down the process. So go back and let's say if you have $1,000 a month to spend, do 700 leads or something like that, but do it consistently and then grow as you can grow. But start where you are. Don't think you have to spend a huge amount of money, because nobody almost starts out at big numbers. And really, you're almost always wasting your money if you do that.
Right.
You don't know enough.
And that's where it is. Like the first time that I had done the mailing, I had not done mailings in the past. I started with $700 budget. Then we went to 900. So how did we go to 900? $700, we got some calls, 0 leads, month 1. Month 2, we added the additional new leads from the next month, right? So now the budget is 900. On 900 sent out, we got 1 closed deal, right? Huge margin, literally almost $150,000 margin. I kept the property as a rental rather than selling the property, but it's a huge amount of margin.
Right.
And what is your effective cost? 700 and 900
Right.
for about $1,500-$1,600, I'm getting a $150,000-$160,000 margin. And this is something, guys, building a business, that every time you have a small win, you have to take a little bit, go spend it, enjoy it, use it for your purposes. The other part of the money has to go back in the business, right? Has to go back in the business. And early on, you're going to have to basically put in more money back into the business. As you start breaking even, as you start, now you have to start saying, okay, how much do I want to scale? And there'll come a day, if you keep this up, where you're going to have 10x the profit rather than the amount of money you actually put back into the business. Right? So what happens whenever I get a call and people are like, well, what are you going to pay for my property?
Oh, I just start asking questions. And my goal with that call, well, is twofold. One is to build rapport with the people and find out what do they really need, because they want to sell the property, but very often there's something else that they really need. But I try to gather information and learn about the property. I'm not going to throw them out just an offer. I'm not going to do that, because it would be a stupid offer. You don't know anything about the property. My goal is to get an appointment and go see the property.
Okay. So your goal is to go out one-on-one.
One-on-one in Louisville, Kentucky, I can do that if it's not far. Now, as you get more experience with this, you can qualify the people pretty well on the phone.
Okay.
So you can do that. But for somebody brand new, I think if you can, you should go look at the property. You should make your mistakes on properties you don't care about.
And this is something like a lot of times people be like, oh, we do virtual wholesaling. We close these deals on the phone.
Yeah.
Guys, listen, when you're new, I'm telling you the easiest way. People do business with people who they like, who they trust, who they have a rapport with, right? And this is a people business. And even if you're brand new, you're listening to this, right? Set a budget. I mean, Harry's a perfect example, right? Harry's a perfect, literally zero money at that time, right? He did a mailing and $200. $200, he does a mailing, very manageable amount. He gets a couple of calls. He goes out and builds rapport with this older woman, almost 85 years old. And it's almost like comical, where he gets there, she has a bunch of keys, and she's like, I don't know which one it is. They're trying every key. She's never had a clue of which key it is. The tenant has already left. They never returned the key to her. Older person, and he literally went in through the back window for her. And guess what? Now she's obviously all over the place. Oh my God! Now she's looking at the house. She owned it with her sister. He drives her to her grave, right? And it's today. It sounds funny, but at that time, guess what? He's brand new. He's got no clue what the property is worth. Right. But guess what he's doing? He's number one in line when it comes to building rapport, right? He's done his part of it, and he helped her go get a key made. He didn't know how to change the locks. And believe me, as you get more experience, you're never going to have to do this. But the first time, it always seems like the real estate gods are testing what you're made of, right?
Right.
I mean, and that was literally going on with him, but guess what? In a great area, he got a property under contract, and what's funny is he wholesales it, makes $5,000. Today, looking back, not a lot of money, but the investor he wholesaled it to, because that was his only choice. That's the only investor he knew. They made $82,000 on a flip, and sometimes people think, well, that's not fair. He only made $5,000, but guess what? That got him started.
It got him started,
right? He does a couple more mailings, gets another $5,000, and guess what? A year into the process, does his first flip, 80-some thousand in profit. And it's okay to get started with basic small successes. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because sometimes people are like, oh my God, I have to, go hit a home run. You don't,
No.
right? It's small things to build your success.
Building rapport is the biggest skill that you can make in this business because of what Andrew said. Very often, you don't have to have the highest offer to get the deal if you've built rapport. But go out and look at properties and do these extra things for people. Do things that make you memorable that the next investor is not going to do, and it will pay off in huge dividends.
Because a lot of times it's really being whoever shows up, right? And you take the time to build rapport with people, and especially with probate type of transactions. People, you'd be shocked, even though a lot of times people will say, well, make your highest offer, blah, blah. That's just talk, right? That's just talk. I mean, I'm telling you, I do this for a living. We own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties. Guess who we sold the property to? My sister and I sold a property to somebody, not that was the highest buyer for our parents' property. We sold it to somebody that could basically, we knew we had the confidence they would close and made our life
Easier.
right? We almost sold that property about $100,000 less, right? Then we could have gotten, maybe we could have gotten on the market another $300,000 more. But the headache, all the things that go with it, that was not worth it for us. And literally the neighbors were like, oh, these two people are foolish. But the $100,000 was not going to make any financial difference to my pocketbook. But the stress of it and my sister getting all stressed out and all the things that were associated with it was not worth it for me to say, no, I want the highest and best dollar for the property.
You think it's all about the money, but it's rarely all about the money. We've had people that have had back taxes, people that didn't have enough money to move, and you get them a moving van and pay them after they're out of the house. It's about, if you come at this business of probates from a point of service, you almost can't lose because it just shines through in everything that you do.
So as far as once you basically go, you got the property under contract, right? Now, who are your best buyers for probates?
My best buyers are, well, if you're wholesaling, it's always going to be either a buy and hold landlord or a rehabber. You'd only need what I would say 5 or 6 tops buyers if you're a wholesaler, and I suggest that you have a buy and hold landlord because they'll often buy on they can buy on a little bit slimmer margins than maybe a fix and flip rehabber. But they'll be your buyers. If you're a wholesaler, if you're going to hold the property, of course, you're the buyer.
Okay. So let's say I'm like, oh my God, this all sounds interesting, and I want to get I don't know what to put in these letters, right? I have no clue. This is my first time. I don't want to say something inappropriate. Is there something you have, some tool or something you have where I can download those letters? How would people reach you?
Well, I've got a couple of things. One thing is I have a probate investing starter kit. It's a freebie on my website. It's probateinvestingsimplified.com and then /starter kit. There's a sample letter.
Hold on. Repeat that slowly
Okay.
once more.
You can put the link in. It's probateinvestingsimplified.com and then /starter kit. So it's completely free. You just go and get it off from the website. And then, of course, I have a course if you want to do something more in depth.
Okay. So just copy paste those letters.
Copy and paste.
Right.
Yep.
Don't make changes. Just copy paste it. I mean, that's what we have done. Right. Literally, I told Harry, hey, man, take that, what is a freebie on Miss Sharon's thing. And it works, guys. Right. It works. I mean, you could virtually, it's nothing very complicated. Right. It's nothing very complex. It's just you're reaching out to people in a kind of way. Hey, I'm here. At the end of the day, right? I'm interested in the property, and the money is in the follow-up, right? It's the consistency of follow-up. That's where the money is. So it's important to keep that in your mind.
Right. And maybe, the second time you reach out, you change the first paragraph or so and say, hey, I'm just checking in to see how the estate's coming. You're just taking them down a path. It's a nurture series of letters where no pressure, no high sales. You've told them what you do, and you remind them every time. But just let me know if there's a way I can help.
Got it. Okay. Anything else I may have missed in our discussion?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. One thing that you mentioned, phone numbers. I like Sideline. If you want, I'm a big proponent of having a separate number for your marketing for tracking. There's a Sideline app you can put on your phone for $14.99 a month. I like it because it's not web-based. It's actually a telephone.
Okay.
And you can pick your number.
You can pick your number, and you can literally install it right on your phone.
Right on your phone. It rings on your phone.
Yeah, and when it rings, it shows that it's a Sideline. So you know that, oh, my God, this is a call coming in from my probate mailing, so you may want to get to it, or you may want to right away respond to them saying, hey, busy right now, but I will get right back with you.
Right, and you can have your own voicemail just for that number.
Right.
And it will send you a transcription and everything of the call.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Guys, this has been absolutely awesome. Sharon is somebody that we've worked with for years and years and years. And if you're not looking into probates, you are missing out. This is Andrew Holmes with Miss Sharon Vornholt, and you're listening to Cashflow for Life. If you have other friends, guests, other people, please make sure you refer the podcast, join, become a part of the group, and we will talk to you soon.